Hi, Ghost Keyboard here. Today, I'm going to review the brand new GMKtec Compact eGPU with the AMD Radeon 7600M XT GPU that support both Oculink and Thunderbolt connection. As you will see later in this review, this 7600 XT GPU from GMKtec is absolutely stomping the competitors' models with its pricing. In this review, I'm going to go through Oculink eGPU test and also Thunderbolt eGPU test, so no one will be left on the side road in this review. Also, to get a bigger picture of where this eGPU stands in terms of performances, I'm going to compare in some side-by-side game runs. This 7600 Mobile XT GPU against the previous gen AMD 6600 mobile GPU and a few comparison with an NVIDIA RTX 4080 Super just for fun. Also, we're going to go through some comparison with some iGPUs to get a clear picture of the performance jump. If you ever own a mini PC with an iGPU, you may wonder how much gain will you get with an eGPU. And if the price worth a purchase of an eGPU, well, this review going to answer those questions. Without further ado, let's jump into this eGPU specification. What we have here is the AMD Radeon RX 7600M XT with 8GB of VRAM. This mobile GPU is packed into an eGPU compact case with an Oculink port and a USB Type-C Thunderbolt port that support other than GPU PCIe to Thunderbolt signal, external monitor display with its 120-watt output. About the performances of this GPU, the RX 7600M XT is equivalent to an NVIDIA laptop RTX 4060. So yes, we do have some power here to play at high setting, mostly at native graphics setting, even with some of the latest AAA titles. This GMKtec eGPU is the cheapest 7600M XT on the market. Its actual price is at $459 on the official GMKtec website. You can also check the link in the video description to the official GMKtec Amazon store and get even better deals with some discount coupon. If you break down the price of the dGPU, you actually have a really great deal. Thunderbolt eGPU's entry price alone are just a bit below $200. With the GMKtec eGPU, you got versatile connection options with either the Oculink port or the Thunderbolt port. You also have up to 100-watt USB-C output for external monitor. You have an integrated 240-watt PSU and generous very long 1-meter Thunderbolt and Oculink cable. And of course, the AMD RX 7600M XT. Before getting into game benchmark and game comparison test, I'm going to go through some classic checklist when you are setting up an eGPU. First, we're going to check with AMD Adrenalin app a few things with both Oculink connection type and Thunderbolt connection type. First thing first, you need to download the latest drivers for both your CPU and iGPU. Here with the dGPU, we have the AMD Radeon 7600M XT card. So I have downloaded the proper driver for my GPU. I have also installed the latest AMD driver for my CPU, which is the Ryzen 9 AI HX 370. Okay, now that we are done with our driver installation, we can proceed to Adrenalin GPU information. Here we have a few interesting informations. We can read info about the VRAM, which is 8GB, the memory clock, and as I have my Oculink cable plugged in, we can read that the current bus configuration is PCIe 4x4, which will give our Oculink setup the correct 64 GB per second data speed transfer with the 4 PCIe 4 lanes. Now with my Thunderbolt connected to the eGPU, we can read that the bus configuration has changed to PCIe 3x4 lanes, which is giving us again the correct 40 GB per second data transfer speed for a Thunderbolt eGPU setup with 10 GB per second per lane. Now what I'm going to do is verify that our Oculink and Thunderbolt eGPU setups are giving us the standard speed from host to device and device to host, meaning from the mini PC to the GPU and the other way. I am using an app called ADA64 to verify that we have correctly set up our eGPU. For an Oculink eGPU setup, everything that range at either read or write memory from 6,000 to 6,400 megabytes per second is considered as a valid eGPU setup, so we have 6,300 megabytes per second at memory write speed. So we are good with our Oculink setup with our Thunderbolt. we can read that we have a memory read speed at 2,900 megabytes per second, and at memory write, we have 2,600 megabytes per second, which is okay too. Now that we are sure that everything is fine with our setup, we can start our test with a certainty that our results are legit and not corrupted by faulty setup. For those tests, I have enabled resize bar support in the BIOS. Shout out to Gareth, a viewer and friend of the channel, for suggesting enabling resize bar, and download the latest optional AMD driver. Before getting into 3D Mark bench results, could you please smash that like button like there is no tomorrow? Also, don't hesitate to leave a comment. I am reading and answering them all. If you like the content of this video, you can subscribe to the channel. It will be much appreciated by me and the algorithm. Let's get to 3D Mark now. Here you have both Oculink and Thunderbolt eGPU results. Performance seems minimal at 4.3% in this TimeSpy benchmark. I wanted to compare my results to the leaderboard with the same system hardware, and we place ourselves at the 3rd place on hundreds of results, so this is an excellent score. Next, at Firestrike, performance gap is at 2% between the Oculink connection and the Thunderbolt connection with this setup. And last, at Night Raid, the performance gap is 5%, so both setup are pretty close in this synthetic benchmark. But in real-world gaming, the performance gap is much bigger than what we are seeing here. So we start the gaming test chapter by setting a baseline of comparison between the latest, most powerful iGPUs in the market and the GP1 7600M XT mobile dedicated GPU. All these tests are made with my GMKtec Evo X1 mini PC that I've reviewed in my previous publication. FPS average data indicators are showing a 28% FPS boost for the 890M iGPU, compared to the 780M iGPU, and an even bigger FPS boost with 52% for the dGPU with Oculink connection compared to the 890M iGPU. Note that those performance boost percentage are fluctuating values and results are depending of the game tested. Usually the 890M will give you 10 to 20% more FPS compared to the 780M and sometimes even less. You can watch my Evo X1 review for more comparison results between the 780M and the 890M iGPU. Now I am comparing the eGPU with the Thunderbolt connection via the USB Type-C port and the eGPU with the Oculink connection. Here it is not a surprise that the Oculink type connection is delivering more FPS as it has a higher data transfer speed than the Thunderbolt connection. Still, both connection type are delivering enough power to run the game at high native settings. FPS average difference is huge on this specific game, as like synthetic benchmark Forza Horizon 5 is very sensitive to any small hardware and spec variations. And here are the results. The difference is huge. Now, still at high native setting, I am comparing this time the previous gen AMD 6600M mobile GPU with the GP1 7600M XT mobile GPU. Here the interesting data is that there is only a 9% FPS boost from the 890M compared to the Thunderbolt 7600M XT GPU. Now we are moving to Black Myth Wukong. Here I had to disable ray tracing for the Thunderbolt eGPU setup connection type, as unlike the Oculink setup, it couldn't handle very high ray tracing setting enabled. Now I am comparing the 6600M mobile GPU against the GP1 7600M XT GPU. Note that the 6600M is not on a fair ground. When considering the bus interface configuration, it has the advantage of the full 8 PCIe 4 lanes, whereas the eGPU bus setting is at 4 PCIe 4 lanes. However, the GP1 is still outperforming the 6600M due to its higher specs, with higher memory clock and higher power draw. Now I am going to start doing some game run at 1440p ultra-wide. This eGPU is like a sweet spot for graphic quality. It will deliver just what you need to get a great high-setting graphic experience on most AAA games. Now we are moving to Ghost of Tsushima. In this game, the graphic settings are summarizing the average difference between the Thunderbolt connection and the Oculink connection. Generally, the Oculink connection with the GMKtec ADGP1 will give you high native setting with no upscaling and without frame generation at 1080p with AAA game, whereas the Thunderbolt connection will need an extra push with frame generation and still without upscaling. So graphic quality-wise, the Thunderbolt connection is still delivering pleasing visual experience. Now a comparison between the 6600M and the ADGP1 7600M XT. Here I am facing an RTX 4080 Super against the ADGP1 at 1440p ultra-wide at high setting with frame generation turned on. Although the RTX 4080 Super is showing a much higher FPS average graphic quality is identical. Now I am going to compare the 6600M with the ADGP1 at Delta Force, and the FPS average gap is going to be significantly higher than what we saw in the previous test. Now Stalker 2 at high setting with native graphic for the Oculink connection type, and with FSR set to quality for the Thunderbolt connection type, I had to change native FSR to quality FSR to get a decent FPS with the Thunderbolt connection. Quality FSR ain't bad, it doesn't degrade the graphic like performance or ultra performance settings. Now again, a comparison between the ADGP1 and the 6600M, we have a good 15% FPS boost for the ADGP1. Both GPUs are pulling close to their max thermal design power. At 1440p, I had to lower the graphics setting to medium and also change the FSR setting from native to quality to maintain an FPS average above 60 FPS.
Spill it, chump. Where's the money?
Up your ass.
Now at Marvel's Spider-Man 2, we start at high settings for both Oculink and Thunderbolt connection. But I had to here again enable frame generation for the Thunderbolt connection to get the game at a playable level.
Principal Evans already hates me for being late this morning.
Bro, I told you to be on time.
It's fine. We'll be back before we know it.
Here I am lowering the graphics setting from high to medium and get a far more better FPS average with the Thunderbolt connection than previously at high setting.
Swinging through Brooklyn. Jameson had you on the ground for the bugle?
Still can't believe old Triple J is your new boss.
Really loving the new regime.
You'll whip him into shape in no time. So, what's up with Marco? It's been years since our last showdown.
Now both Thunderbolt and Oculink setups are set at medium settings for a fair ground comparison.
That looks dangerous. Maybe he's hungry. Must be more of a plus guy. Never said it was a good one. It was supposed to be a normal day. Teach physics, have awkward conversations in the teacher's lounge.
Here at God of War Ragnarok, I am starting the comparison between the Oculink and the Thunderbolt setup with the same setting at native ultra setting. But as you see, the Thunderbolt connection is giving us an FPS average under 60 FPS. So like I did before, I am gonna enable frame generation to get the Thunderbolt eGPU setup run at a higher FPS at this ultra graphic setting. In this test between the 6600M and the ADGP1, it's the first time that the 6600M is so close. Both mobiles' GPUs are running this title at the almost exact same FPS. Now with Starfield, both Oculink and Thunderbolt setups are handling ultra setting at native, so we are going to get performance gap results on a fair ground. Moving on now with the dGPU model battle still at ultra-native setting. The Witcher 3 at high native setting. Like previous titles, when Thunderbolt eGPU is under 60 FPS, you can use FSR or frame generation to boost your FPS. Here I have set FSR to balance. Now in this GPU battle, the 6600M is getting wrecked by the 7600M XT. It did hold its stand in some previous tested title, but here performance difference is quite huge between those two cards.
Or feel ready me. Wallace will never believe it.
Now at 1440p, I do have to set FSR at quality to get a decent FPS average. Just note that my monitor display is at 120 Hz refresh rate. I would probably get a higher FPS by reducing my monitor refresh rate. Now Indiana Jones and the Great Circle at low setting without monitor upscaling, we are at native 1080p. I know that this game is very demanding in graphic hardware resources. The visual quality of the graphic is good enough at low setting to have a good gaming experience. Now the GPU battle between the 6600 MHz and the 7600 MHz XT. Again, the 6600 MHz is holding its ground in this title. Both GPU are pulling the maximum power draw from their PSU. Here now at 1440p ultra-wide, as FSR isn't available in this title, I had to upscale the monitor display to 1080p to get over 60 FPS. I am pushing here the game to spot any lag or screen tearing or any graphic bug, and everything is fine. The game run really smoothly. Now we are moving to the last game test of this review with Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. At medium setting with FSR set to quality. If you have enjoyed the video, please give this video a like, comment, or subscribe to the channel. Thanks you for watching.
Save them, but you can save the survivors. I need to find the source of all this. I promised.